I'm gonna fill up on this. Smells like chicken. Okay, I'm gonna increase the brightness. Gonna log in. Log in. Okay. Oh. Hold on. Let me see what I got in a situational judgment. I want to know how many far I was. Okay, so I got 38. Oh damn, I only did 4. Okay, I'm gonna practice on syllogisms again. No scientifics are athletic. All researchers are scientists. Some scientists attend conferences. No researcher is athletic. That's true. If a person is athletic, they will not attend a conference. No. Nobody who attends a conference is a researcher. No. If a person is not a researcher, they cannot know. No athletic people are scientists. Yes, because if you're a scientist, you cannot be athletic. Okay. That's 25 seconds a mark. Oh, I was bang on average. But that was good though. That was good. Oh, that was a very easy one though. I'm fine with that though. I'm actually quite happy with that. Let me do 2 question sets now. The Smith's farm stocks 3 breeds of chicken, including Leghorn, which have only white feathers, white eggs, and Leghorn. Then we have Leg Bar, which have some cream feathers and can lay green eggs. All chickens on the farm which lay brown eggs have brown feathers. All chickens in the farms which are not leg bar or do not have brown yes. A chicken on a farm which does not lay white eggs must have brown feathers. No, because only some are green eggs. Some chickens at the farm do not lay brown eggs. Yes. A leg barred chicken has brown feathers, might not lay green eggs. No, it no. A copper man chickens have some brown feathers, therefore lay brown eggs. No. Fingal are nocturnal. We have fin and whim. All all whimdles are fingers. Some fingers are carnival. No whimdles are feathered. A feathered creature must not be a whimdle. Yes, a nocturnal creature that is not a whimdle must be a finger. No. If a creature is a whimdle, it must be a finger. Yes. Some whimdles are carnivorous. We're not told. Wait. No, they're all carnivorous. No fingers are feathered. We're not told about their feathered status. Okay, so the harder one, I got full marks. What? Oh shit, I just wiped out the one I needed. But this one was hard as well. Hold on. Okay. Which are not leg bars. Okay, I just read the question wrong. I read the question wrong. I wish I started this earlier, man. Anish is the only person in office who doesn't add milk to his tea. No milk. More than one person in the office adds sugar to their tea. Bro, what? If someone in the office does not add sugar to their tea, they must add milk. That's not mentioned. Anish adds sugar to his tea. That's not mentioned. At least one person in the office adds. Anish is the only person. I don't know. How was I meant to draw that? I don't understand what I was meant to draw there. I really don't. I'm confused by this rule, bro. What you talking about? Okay, hypothetical, yeah. There's 100 people. 99 add milk. 2 add sugar. Okay, yeah, that was a hypothetical scenario one. dishes. Neither omelette contain cheese. They both contain egg. Croissants contain egg, but croissants are not carrot fluted. Carrot fluted is a type of omelette. Oh shit. Oh, croissants contain egg, but croissants are not catapullas. Catafulla is a type of omelette. No. If Jean is only eating a caraflute, so he must not be eating a croissant. Yes. Some French dishes contain cheese. Yes. Not all French dishes contain egg. That's true. Wait. I actually know that. We're told they all contain egg. Croissants contain cheese. We're not told that. That's my fault. I read that quite. It just goes to me reading it wrong, really. It just goes to me reading it wrong. Okay, practice, boom. Both zippers and buttons are fastening. Neither zippers or buttons are sticky, but they are both secure. Locks are secure, but they are not fastening. Locks are not sticky, we're not told. Locks are fasteners, we're literally told they're not. If fastening is not secure, it must not be a zipper. No, that's a carrot. That's a carrot. Oh shit. If a fastening is not secure, it must not be a zipper. That's true. Either buttons or locks are sticky. We're not talking anything about buttons or locks. Yes, we are. No. If a secure item is a lock, it cannot be fastening. No. Mark, yes. All my days, man. What am I doing wrong? Oh, it's just the last one. If a secure item is a lock, yeah, that's my bad. I read the thing. That's the thing, right? I get so good at using the diagram. I forget what the words are. I just use the diagram. I forget what the words are talking about. I can't lie. But I reckon, right, I just want to be able to get like 50% on these. Because then I get 100% on the easy ones, 50% on the hard ones. Then we're going to do a trial mock and an actual mock the day before. Yeah. But I want to be able to go through at least half of these decision making ones. I want to master half of these decision making ones, right? So I've kind of mastered strongest argument. I want to master that. Then I want to master these two. Then I'll master these another day. Well, I'll say another day. I don't have a choice. I'll have to. Verbal reasoning, you can't really master that. It's just skip the hard ones. Then I get quantitative reasoning. I'll learn, which I'm pretty solid at. I'll learn to master that. And then last days, mock. if a someone earns certification, they pass. Only certified swimmers, are employed at restaurants that are awarded 3-star plus. Okay. Any swimmer employed at a restaurant with 3 or more stars has passed their bind exam. Oh, if they pass, yes. If someone did not pass, they have not earned their certification. Oh, no. Oh, shit. If they earned their certification, they passed. Which means they work at 3-star plus. Someone did not pass. If a restaurant has 2 or fewer stars in a travel guide, okay, yes, I spent 1 minute 46. I don't care. There's some of them I spent 2.5 minutes on and I got 0 marks. So let's say I learned to do this, got the two marks, that boom would have upgraded my decision making by this much. Yeah, I'm not even gonna look over that. That's kind of, yeah. Okay. All modules in the training program are either in person or remote. The in-person modules and some remote modules have assigned homework. No remote module includes interactive. If a module includes interactive, it must be an in-person module. Yes. If a module does not have assigned homework, it must be a remote module. Yes. More in-person than remote modules have assigned. No, we're not told how many there are. If a module has assigned homework, no. Some in-person modules do not have assigned homework. No. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm catching up to be average. Okay. Calcs. No bubbles are calcs. All trees that are not deciduous are bubbles. Okay. If a tree is not deciduous, it's not a kelp. No. But yes. Some kelps are not trees. I'm not told. If a tree is not a bubble, if a tree is deciduous, it is a kelp. We're not told. Either a tree is a bubble Bro, I did not know what I was answering there. I had zero idea. I just looked at the diagram and just went, I should not be. Like, look at this, bro. 20%, 30%, 30. If a tree is not deciduous, it is not a kelp. Yes. Because if it's not deciduous, it is then a bulb, which is not kelp. Some kelps are not trees. Yeah, no information. If a tree is not a bubble, it is deciduous. Yes, because all not deciduous are bubbles. So the rest must be not deciduous. If a tree is deciduous, it is a kelp. We're not told. We cannot conclude. Yeah. Either a tree is a bubble or is it not? A tree is either a bubble. Yeah, fifth statement is like saying you're either gay or you're not gay. Like, bro. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I need to get some super glue for that rubber. Because we're environmentally friendly around here. Okay, I said 5 in a row, full marks, and I'll stop. I might be on that, you know. Come on. Boom. Not all operating systems capable operating systems. Some. But all operating systems have a troubleshooter. Some troubleshooters are not compatible. Are not compatible. Every troubleshooter that is compatible with the latest software is part of an operating system. Yes. Wait, no. If an operating system has a troubleshooter, it is capable. No. Few operating systems are incapable of running. Not all. We're not told. At least one troubleshooter is in an operating system that is not capable. Yes. If software does not have a troubleshooter, it is not an operating system. Yes. Let's go, bro. I should not be getting this gas over some decision making, bro. I wish I did this ages ago. The revision. Bro, 50% on that one. So that's a hard one. The thing is, yeah, I'm taking longer on average every single time. So I generally think, right, people, they just understand it in their head. Every troubleshooter. Okay. One more, and obviously, if as long as I'm not flipping 5 hours above the average time, then I'm calm with that. Let's clean that camera of my dirty fingertip. Okay. Not all passengers in the cable car have snowboards. Okay. But most of the passengers without snowboards have skis. Most. Few passengers with suitcases. Okay. With suitcases have a snowboard, but none have skis. No passenger in the cable car with a snowboard also has skis. More passengers in the cable car have snow. We're not told the amount. Most passengers with suitcases have neither. No. More passengers in the cable car. We're not told on the amount. At least one passenger in the cable car has a snowboard. No. Passengers in the cable car that have either. Fuck! Bro, I didn't understand what it was asking, bro. Why am I talking like that? I think I've drawn my thing wrong. Let's see. Cable car. No passenger with a snowboard has skis. Most of the passengers without a snowboard have skis. Oh, it was few passengers with a suitcase. Few have snowboard. Should have got one more there. At least one passenger in the cable car has a snowboard. Yeah. reasoning. Back up. Okay. If I get this one 2 out of 2, it makes up for that one. And then I know I'm not gay. Employees are required to update their health insurance each December of the following candle year. However, employees whose marital status has changed and employees with newborn, this is put as children, may at any time during the year employing if 30 days. An employee who has been with the company for 3 weeks and an employee who has been with the company for 60 days and adopts a new child in May, yes, anytime. Any employee at the company who updates their health insurance in September no, because they could have. Right. If an employee who has worked for the company in the last 12 years gets married in June, they can update. Yeah. Employees without changes in marital status or newborn children must wait until December. To be fair, I feel like I could have done that in my head. But if I attempted that with my head, I would have got fucked. And I think putting it on the board just made it simpler. Let's look at it. Average, I spent more time. I don't care. Let me ask ChatGPT again. What is the time per month for decision making? Wait. Oh shit. She leaves tomorrow, so I might actually see her today. Shit, that's gonna be so awkward, bro. What? That can't be true. Mock exams for decision making. There's 47, bro. I can just get 30. Oh, flipping out. That's quite high. Is it even 31 minutes? I don't even know. It might not even be 31 minutes. Decision making time. It's 37. Bro, this thing's just getting everything wrong. Actually, this is the longest one as well. 47 seconds. Okay, that's pretty good. Who am I kidding? That's good. That's shit. Okay, so let's see. If I did this right, I spent 2 minutes on this and I got 0 marks. If all road signs are either white, blue, or yellow, and there were more more white than blue. White is greater than blue, but only half as many yellows. Of all the white road signs have black symbols. The blue road signs had white symbols, and the yellow road signs had black symbols, except for a few blue. Let's put black there. Few of the road signs were blue. Yes, because white is greater than blue, and white is only half of yellow. Yes, so I would have got that wrong. There were more road signs. There were more road signs with white symbols. Yeah, no. There were more road signs with blue symbols than blue road signs. Yes, that's true. Wait, no. Yes, because yellow is greater than white. Yellow is greater than white, and white is greater than blue. Here, there were more. Oh no, it's no. Yes. Would have got 2 marks. Okay. Music convention. Some were historians. All the historians were music theorists, and some of the historians, some were not jazz experts. At least one person attending who was not a historian was not a music theorist. Where the fuck is music theorist came from? Oh. No, because we're not told. Yeah. So that would have gave me a mark. All jazz experts and who were historians were, yes, and I would have got that from the thing. I would have got 2 marks. Not all music theorists at the music convention who are historians were, yes. Some of the historians attending the music convention were, yes. No. I would have put no, because it was all of them. At least one jazz expert at the museum was a, yes. Boom. Would have got 4 marks. Would have added 4 marks to that, okay? Okay, state government, subsistence farm, not financed. All sustainable agriculture projects in the state, sustainable, are financed. Farming projects that exclude livestock, no live, are sustainable. Okay, gone to the last one. If a farming project in the state is a sustainable agriculture project, it excludes cruelty is the worst. Carelessness towards other people, cruel. Carelessness, careless person, no. Cruelty is acting when yes. Carelessness towards other people, no. There is no quality worse than acting, yes. Cruelty is acting in a way that harms people. No, it's intent to harm. Okay. So let's just say, yeah, I got 4 more marks. Yeah, this was guess, bro. That was pure guesswork. That's all of those anyway. Let's just say I would have got 4 more marks. I would have got 29. That would have been 650. 650. I did not mean to do that. Let's say, right, I did 650. I'll go by 3. Let's see. Okay, I'm bullshitting myself now because I'm not getting 650 or verbal reasoning. Anyway, I'm gonna go with this. Jeez, what did I do wrong? I'm forever gonna regret losing that girl. Well, I can't regret losing her because it was out of my control. Anyway, I'm gonna see, was I lucky with the amount I guessed? 1, 2, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 4, 2 out of 5. 2 out of 6. 3 out of 7. 4 out of 8. 5 out of 9. Wow, that is quite lucky, isn't it? That's amazing. When I got a high score, probably take off like 2 marks, but realistically, got 590. Okay, UCAT score calculator. So let's say about decision making. But decision making is not out of 35. out of 47. My latest verbal reasoning is probably my most average. 19. Okay. 19. Quantitative reasoning out of 36. 8. So 24. Situational judgment. Just say 20. I don't flipping know. Wait, what? But that's because my decision making's inflated. It's my score's not actually that high. It's out of 47. We're gonna see if he has any more videos on syllogisms.
So hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Following all the positive responses as well as some comments suggesting if I could go through some of the harder syllogism questions, I've decided that today I'll be going through some of the longer ones, and also some more different styles from both the official UK website as well as some of the ones on meidfy. So if we get into this, and just as a little disclaimer for anyone who is not aware, I'm going to be using the arrow method to solve these questions, and I previously talked about this in one of my earlier videos. So if you are stumbling upon this video and you're new to the channel, please do check out my other videos, and I think they're going to be really, really useful tools, especially for anyone who's going to be setting the UCAT.
Okay. So yeah, all aspects of a business are either manageable or unmanageable, but none of the unimaginable business, finance, or tech. Employee satisfaction. Employee satisfaction. Some aspects of the business are manageable, yes. Oh, it's all. Yes, employee satisfaction. Employee satisfaction is the only no. All aspects of the business related to finance, no. All unmanageable aspects of the business are related. Yes. Not all manageable aspects of the business. No.
And this summer, the arrow method to finance or technology are unmanageable. That's also no, because we know they're manageable. All unmanageable aspects are related to neither finance.
What? How? Some aspects of the business are manageable. Employee satisfaction.
Technology. That's true. I guess that's just a rewording of what it says here. Not all management aspects of the business are related to finance and technology. This is true because we also have employee satisfaction. Okay. Perfect. So on to the next question then. Okay, so this is true because we also have employee satisfaction. Aspects of the business are manageable. Okay, it could be that there's no unmanageable aspects, and so therefore once again we're creating the hypothetical. So the opposite is true. So all aspects that could be true, therefore original statement has to be false. Employee satisfaction is the only manageable aspect. Related to finance and technology. This is true because we also have employee satisfaction. Okay. Perfect. So on to the next question then. Okay, so
Okay, that was a hard one. I think I would have got zero. These are two different types of biologists. Zoo Viv, the biologist, is not a botanist. Some biologists are male. Viv is a zoologist. Yes. Viv, who is not a botanist, must be male. No. Some botanists are male. No. At least one of the biologists is female. No. Oh. Yes, well, it depends. Is there more than two genders? Who knows? Not all zoologists are female. Yes.
The next question, it says, in a university, there's two different types of biologists, zoologists and botanists. Okay, so there's only two types. It says Viv the biologist is not a botanist, so Viv must be a zoologist. And it says some of the biologists are male. So it says some are male. So Viv is a zoologist. Yes, we know that must be true since she's not a botanist. Viv, who is not a botanist, must be male. Not necessarily. Some botanists are male. Once again, we don't know. Because it could be that all the zoologists are the ones that are male and there's no female botanists. Once again, creating the hypothetical. At least one of the biologists is female. Yes, because some represents 2 to 99. So there must be at least one biologist that's a female if 2 to 99 are male. Not all zoologists are female. Once again, we don't know that. Okay, there's not enough information to conclude. Because we could say, for example, that all the zoologists are female, or we could say that all the zoologists are male, and then it's just the botanists that are female, or vice versa. So all the zoologists could be female, and all the botanists could be male. Okay? Okay. And then we'll go on from. We don't know. But all of those follow the biomedical waste management protocol. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one. Some hospitals are not licensed. Well, we know that all the licensed ones follow the waste management protocol, and only a few of them in the region follow the waste management protocol. So therefore, we can conclude that this must be true, because there must be some that are not licensed. Some hospitals outside the region are licensed. Well, we just don't have enough information about those outside the region. So once again, you could create the hypothetical where all the hospitals outside the region are not licensed, or are licensed. Once again, not enough information, so that's no. The hospitals in the region either follow the biomedical waste management protocol or are licensed. So what do we say about or? Or, the easiest way to disprove all statements is prove both are right or both are wrong. So here, you can know that there's licensed hospitals that follow the waste management program. So this has to be false. Okay? If a hospital in the region is licensed, it must be following the biomedical waste management protocol. Yes, you can just see that from our diagram. Okay? If a hospital in the region follows the biomedical waste management protocol, it must be licensed. Well, we know all the licensed ones follow the protocol, okay, but it doesn't mean that all the hospitals that follow the protocol are licensed. So this is that ABBA trick. Okay, so we're unable to conclude that. So it can look a little bit daunting, but once again, I think if you abbreviate it, get your arrows in properly, it should make sense. Okay, on to the next question.
Because the thing is, yeah, I was thinking about becoming a neurosurgeon, but you need a medicine degree for that. Don't want to do that. Courage is the greatest virtue. Absence of fear is not. Being fearless is one of the virtues. No. Oh shoot. No. Being fearless is a great no. Courage is a conviction to despise fear. Yes. Courage is having conviction to act fearlessly. No. There is no virtue greater than conviction to act. Yes.
So, another one. Courage is the greatest virtue of all. Absence of fear is not the greatest virtue. So, absence of fear is not the greatest virtue, but having the conviction to act despite fear is. So, having the conviction to act despite fear. And so, because I've done so many of these questions, I know what's going to happen. You can see it's telling us that courage is the greatest virtue, and having the conviction to act despite fear is also the greatest virtue. So, we know that these two are basically equal to each other. Does that make sense? So, being fearless is one of the virtues. We don't know anything about fearless at all. Remember, we can't make any conclusion. Being fearless is the greatest virtue. Once again, it tells us the absence of fear is not the greatest virtue. So, that's going to be no. So, absence of fear, fearless. Courage is the conviction to act despite fear. Okay? So we know that courage is equal to the greatest virtue, and having the conviction to act despite fear is the greatest virtue. So since they're equal to each other, this must be true. So you can really see what I meant when I said in the first video that when you start off with this technique, the hardest bit will be drawing a diagram, but later it will be the comprehension aspect. Okay? So courage is having the conviction to act fearlessly. Well, no, it's having the courage to act despite fear. Okay, so it's not having the conviction to act fearlessly. And lastly, there is no virtue greater than the conviction to act despite fear. We know that's true, because having the conviction to act despite fear is the greatest virtue. So this is yes. So this one's a bit more of a kind of a mental one, if you kind of think about it. And once again, I think that's why if you try to do it in your head, you would definitely kind of mess up a little bit, potentially. Anyways, I know that I would, which is why I would definitely stick to the diagram. Okay? Cool. On to the next question. Okay, so this
guy's such a skibbity boss, bro. Like, he's actually admitting that I do shit. A few questions on the test. A few were based on extended thinking. The rest of the questions so we based on understanding or application. None of the questions in the test were based on recalling facts. Yes. Not all questions in the test were based on understanding or application. Yes. At least one of the questions that was based on extended thinking yes. All questions in the test were based on extended thinking or understanding or application. Yes. A few questions based on the application were also based no. That doesn't make any sense.
what appears to questions in the test are based on application or on extended thinking only, so this is going to be true. Not all the questions are based on understanding or application. That part is also going to be true, because some were on extended thinking. At least one question that was based on extended thinking was not based on understanding. Once again, yes, because it was extended thinking only, so nothing else was involved. All the questions in the test were based on extended thinking or understanding or application. Once again, yes, because we know that all of them, it's solely on understanding, solely on application, or solely on extended thinking. So there was no overlap between them. So here we can't disprove this or statement because you can only have one of these. A few questions based on application were also based on extended thinking and application. Well, we know that's wrong because questions are either solely on understanding, solely on application, or on extended thinking only. Okay? Awesome.
What did he get? Okay, so I think I've mastered that. We're gonna now look at logic puzzles. Logic puzzles 1 and 2. And I also this is a quantitative reasoning one. Let me watch it. I'm just kind of curious.
Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be doing another quantitative reasoning subtest mock. So I hope you find this video helpful, and once again I've done a couple of these, but I think that this quantitative reasoning is one of those, especially as we head into the latter parts of UCAT prep, is one of those you definitely can improve in a short amount of time. Verbal reasoning is a lot harder, I would say. Decision making and quantitative reasoning you can do. So without much further ado then, let's get straight into things. So as always you'll be able to see my iPad screen, so that should be helpful to be able to figure out exactly what I'm doing, and I'll be able to try and talk you guys through my thought processes as well. Okay, so let's get straight into it. What's the total? Okay, I'm going to skip this. What was the profit earned in millions of dollars for Company B in 1994? Company B. Skip you guys through my thought processes as well. Okay, so let's get straight into it. What's the total? Okay, I'm going to skip this. What was the profit earned in millions of dollars for Company B in 1994? Company B profit was 25%. Okay, I'm going to skip this, I can't lie. In 1984, what percentage of the total value of exports was attributed to food in 84-85? So value exceeded the value of raw exports by 100%. Raw materials to that of articles was 3 to 4. Okay, I'm going to. What's the difference in the average number of students per provider between 2004? Okay, so 1367 divided by 51. 1367 divided by 51. Store that in the memory. And then 1431 divided by 49. Subtract. So 2.4. In the year between, was the average number of students per provider the lowest? Students per provider the lowest, so you want it to be It's 24.5, and then 229825. I think it's going to be this one, 2007. I'm just going to flag it. What's the average annual change in the number of students over the 5-year period of 2004? Okay, so it's going to be 2298. Subtract 1367, divide that by 5, 186.2. If the increase in the number of students between 2008 would increase, how many students expect? So
okay, so you do 2298 divided by 2013. You get that.
That's the in 2013. So 2298 subtract 2013 and then times this by, so 10, 11, 12, 13 is this, times this by 4. 4 plus 2298 will be 3438. How much more area did the Western Australia bushfires cover compared to the South Australian? Express the percentage as 12 divided by 17, which is 70.6. How much more area did the South Australia bushfires cover compared to the 2002 Northern Territory?
Okay, area in hectares. You do. Oh, you just do 2 hectares.
In kilometers squared, so that's 2 more million hectares. 2 million hectares. 2 million hectares. So that's times 0.01, so it's going to be 20,000. Yeah. So Australia 7.7. What percentage of this? About 74.5 Northern Bush Territory fires. Northern Territory bushfires. That's 1.5. So that's 15 million right now. So that's 1.5 million, 0.15. So 0.15 divided by 7.7 divided by 100 is going to be Australia's 74.75 Northern. Oh, I looked at the wrong one. So then times this by 3. 5.8.
Okay, here's what I would have done. Because the percentages are so specific. Okay, it says it. The calculator on this side doesn't matter. I would just done 7. I would have just done 45 divided by 77, and you get, because the conversion is just magnitude. So as long as it's 5/8, you get the same thing.
So I calculated for 15 Northern Territories for this. Okay, what percentage of Australia's total area was?
What I would do is at 1.9 billion acres, I would do 1.9 multiplied by 0.4. Okay, so it's 0.76 hectares. Total area was covered by the 3 largest bushfires. Okay, then I'll just times this by 1,000,000,000. Okay, now I got 0.76, right? Okay. Then I get 0.76. Then I just do 45 plus 29 plus 17 is 91. Okay, then divided by 0.76 is...
by the three largest bushfires. 7.
Surely you have
Okay,
options.
32. Medium. 11.97,
So I got...
which is 12.0. Divide this by 1.9.
See, I got the same answer as him. Mine is a different factor. Mine runs up to
11.97, which is 12.0%. The number of medium box size sold on Tuesdays. What percentage of the medium or box?
Cool. 32 divided by 70. Whoops! I meant to do it on this calculator. 32 divided by 70. Oh, it still doesn't even work. 32 divided by 70. 45. Oh, Tuesday was 64. Bruh, I added it up wrong. It's 74. I just know it's 105.
Oh, so 74 over 70 is 105.71%.
What's the difference between the number of medium boxes sold on Monday?
It's the difference between the number of
sold on Thursday. 46, 46, 2.
medium boxes sold on Monday and large boxes on a Thursday, so that's 2. Oh.
Find a ratio of large boxes on Wednesday to the medium boxes on Tuesday. 1 to 1. See.
Okay, find the ratio of the large size boxes sold on Wednesday to medium size. That's 1 to 1. Oh. What's the total?
What's the total number of boxes sold on Saturday? If large boxes sold were 40% more than Friday, 70, so I do 70 times 1.4 is 98.
Boxes sold on
And medium boxes were 40% less, so I would then do 40 times 0.6, you get 24, add that together, you get 12, 1100, 122.
Saturday. If the large boxes were 50% more than that on Friday, the medium, so large boxes were 50% more. So 70, so I'm going to play the calculator, 70 times 1.4, store that in the memory, and then medium is 40 times 0.6, add that to the memory, and then we equal 122. Penalty.
Anyway, I wasn't actually meant to be doing this.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So thank you for the positive responses on my first video. So moving on now, I thought that based off some of the comments that I received, that the second video I would do would be covering some aspects of logical puzzles. So with syllogisms, we
I need to pee. I'll be back. Let's go.
that there was essentially one synchronous technique that we could use for pretty much any syllogism question. However, for logical puzzles, it works slightly differently, as there are many different styles of questions. But one of the most common questions are these, what I call 2 or 3 variable questions, where there's 4 people, and they may be from 4 different countries, and let's say they wear 4 different hats. That kind of logic, the ones where people are assigned different items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the best method that I found to be able to go through these, and how you can answer them as efficiently and quickly as possible. So let's talk a little bit about it, and then we can go into some questions similar to last time where I'll walk you through it. So firstly, it's really important to create what I call a two-way table. Okay, so this will make sense when I go into doing the walkthrough, but the idea is that you put one main variable down the middle. Okay, this isn't necessarily always the names. That's what's important to think about. Normally people always put down like the names or the main variable, but that's not necessarily how it is. The main variable is decided by which variable is mentioned most in the question. So we will talk about this and we will come to this in a bit. The second idea with having some kind of table is that it allows you to extract all the relevant information, and I'll teach you some of the ways in which you can go beyond the information that you already know. So often people get these questions wrong because they don't realize the extent of all the information that you actually are able to extract from this. Thirdly, it's really important to read the actual question. So people often like to do logical puzzles, but it's important to note sometimes you don't necessarily need to complete a logical puzzle to get the answer. And that brings me on to my fourth point, that if you read the question and the question says, what possession does X person have, or what hat does Y person have, it means that you might not necessarily always need to complete the logical puzzle all the way to the end. And especially with the UCAT, they're trying to find ways to trick you and make you waste your time. So it's really, really important to read the question so you know what you're heading towards. Okay? So, having got that out of the way, I think the most important thing for us to do is walk through some questions together. So let's have a look at this first question. So, 4 people, HIJK, are a doctor, manager, teacher, and lecturer, not necessarily in that order. They each own a different type of vehicle. So H is a doctor, J owns a sports car, K owns an electric car, the person who owns a motorbike is not the teacher, the manager polishes a scooter every weekend. Which one of the following must be true? So you can see we're looking for either the teacher or the manager. Just as a quick tip, when they normally say which one of the following must be true, normally you have to try and complete the question as best as possible. So if you look at the options here, I would say that the names are potentially mentioned the most. Okay, H, J, K, the person. Okay, so I think I'm going to put the names down the middle. And actually with this question, it doesn't matter too much what you put down the middle, because I think you can put pretty much anything and the other variables will fit in place. So I talked about having this kind of two-way table and the necessity of needing it. So all you basically do is you put the one set of variables on one side. So doctor, manager, teacher, lecturer. And then on the other side, you're
H is a doctor.
the cars. So sports car, electric car, motorbike, and so let's work our way through this information. H is a doctor. So what we do is, since H is a doctor, it means no one else can be the doctor, and it means H can't have any of the other jobs. J owns a sports car, so if J owns a sports car, that means the sports car can't be owned by
K owns an electric car. Person who owns the motorbike is not the teacher.
someone else.
The manager polishes their scooter, so they must be the manager, therefore they can't have that. He can't have the scooter, he has the motorbike.
any of the other cars. K owns an electric car, so the electric car is not owned by anyone else, and K can't have any of the other cars. I think you guys are getting the idea here. The person who owns a motorbike is not the teacher. So now we come to something that's a little bit difficult because it doesn't mention HIJK. So it says the person who owns a motorbike is not the teacher. So what do we do with this information? Well, the best way to present it, I find, is to draw an arrow over the top. And since it says is not, we put an X through it. And so hopefully later on, when we come to do this question, and hopefully maybe we find out who has the motorbike or who the teacher is, we'll be able to rule out the other criteria. So if we find out who the teacher is, we know that that person won't have the motorbike, and if we find out who has the motorbike, we know that that person won't be the teacher. Okay? The manager polishes a scooter every weekend. So if you guys can guess what this is going to look like, you're going to have an arrow over the top. So the manager polishes a scooter every weekend. Okay? So if you have a look here, we know that H is not the manager. Okay? See the X here. So therefore, we can conclude that H also must not have the scooter. Okay? And so therefore you can see a gap opens up. And so with this technique, what we're looking for is not only looking to put crosses in, we're looking for gaps. And so you can see I must have the scooter because that's the only gap that's present. Because the scooter can't be owned by H, J or K, so therefore it must be I. And since we know the manager has the scooter, I must be the manager, and we've got our answer. And we can move on. We don't have to do anything else. Obviously, like I said, one of the ways in which they like to trick you and make you waste time is make you complete it. So obviously, you can do a little bit more information here. So you can figure out H is the motorbike, and therefore you could have said H is not the teacher, and you could have put some more crosses here as well. And unfortunately, this is as far as we can get. But once again, the important idea is that we don't necessarily need to do all of that. Okay? So this kind of two-way table method is going to be extremely, extremely useful because it allows you to picture and visualize the information a lot more easily. Okay? So let's move on to our next question. Question 2. So if you guys...
Okay. K and A and I and Sandra were on holiday. Each of them one of them activities. Jet skiing, scuba diving, sea walk, snorkeling. The rates of the activities were 30, 40, 65, 35. Kane did not spend the highest amount on his activity, but he spent $10 more than Nicole. So Kane did that. Nancy did not participate in jet skiing, but her activity cost less than Sandra's. Okay. Nicole opted out for snorkeling. Kane did not select Sea Walk as his beach activity. But Sandra spent more than Nicole. So Sandra is 65 or 75. So Nicole spent 30. Sandra.
To have a go, see if you can perhaps create your own table and fill in this information. And once again, remember, read the question. So if you'd like to pause it now and have a go yourself, and then unpause it when you're done, and I will go through it. Okay, so let's have a look at the main information here. So Kane did not spend the highest amount, but spent 10 more than Nicole. Nancy didn't participate in jet skiing, but her activity cost less than Sandra's. Nicole opted for snorkeling. Kane did not select sea walk as his beach activity. Who paid $75 for their activity? So I think the names are mentioned the most again. So I'm going to put the names down the middle. And I can put the amounts of money that their activities cost on one side and their actual activities on the other side. So I guess part of this method is you have to get everything down, which can often take some time, but it's not necessarily a massive amount of time, because I think you'll often save a lot of time in the long run. Okay? So, Kane didn't spend the highest amount in his activity. And remember, we're looking for who paid 75 for their activity. So Kane didn't spend the highest amount, so we know he didn't spend 75, but he spent 10 more than Nicole. So looking at the options, the only way Kane could have spent 10 more than Nicole without spending the highest must be if he spent 40 and Nicole spent 30. Okay? And then we just tick and cross like last time.
Oh yeah, I should have crossed that. So Nicole did not spend those. These people couldn't have bought those ones because these people had them.
Okay. Nancy didn't participate in jet skiing, but her activity cost less than Sandra's. So Nancy's must be 65, Sandra's must be 75, and therefore we've got our answer, which is D, Sandra. So you can see you didn't actually even need to use the last line to get to this question. Okay, and that's really, really important. And I think that one of the things which is really, really going to help is, like I said, reading the question first so you don't fall into the trap of unnecessarily doing too much.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the third question. Once again, if you guys would like to have a go at this, it's the hardest of the lot, and then we can talk through it afterwards. Okay, so let's have a look at the passage. So Sean was born before David. Henry was not born in August or November. Henry didn't eat the kiwi-flavoured cake that was served at his best friend's birthday. Sean bought a chocolate cake for his friend's birthday, which is celebrated in November. John's birthday was first, and he bought his own birthday cake from Bakery A, and it was either pineapple or strawberry cake. I think in terms of, once again, I think we're going to put the names down the middle. So David, Henry, John and Sean. Birthdays are Feb, May, August and November. And the cakes are kiwi, chocolate, pineapple and strawberry. Okay, so let's go through it. Sean was born before David. So here a lot of people think, oh, I can't really do much with this information. I'm just going to move on and I can talk about Henry not being in August or November. But this is what I mean about the extraction. So Sean was born before David, and remember, they're all born in the same year. If Sean was born before David, he can't have been born last. Does that make sense? Think about it. If they're all in the same year, and Sean is born before David, Sean can't be the person who was born last, so he can't have been born in November. And vice versa, if Sean was born before David, David can't have been born first. Okay, so do you see how we
Sean was born before David.
extracted those additional pieces of information? Henry wasn't born in August or November. Henry didn't eat the
Henry was born in May. Henry did not eat the kiwi. So Henry did not get kiwi. Couldn't choose it.
flavoured cake that was served at his best friend's birthday. So here, if Henry didn't eat the kiwi flavoured cake served at his best friend's birthday, that means Henry's birthday wasn't kiwi. Okay? Sean bought a chocolate cake.
Sean bought a chocolate cake, which is celebrated in November. Oh, David is in November, and David had chocolate
For his friend's birthday. So once
John's birthday was first, and he bought, and it was neither pineapple or strawberry. So John's was kiwi. Wait, I got John and David.
Sean's birthday therefore wasn't chocolate. Bought a chocolate cake for his friend's birthday, which is celebrated in November. So you can draw an arrow over the top. Okay? And so it basically means that whoever had the chocolate cake is in November. And you can see Henry was not born in November. So therefore Henry can't have had the chocolate cake. Does that make sense? Single time we're trying to extract as much information as possible. John's birthday was first. Okay, so finally we've got a tick on the board. So John's birthday was first. And with that tick, you can see lots of gaps opening up. So let's fill that in. So that means that Henry must have been born in May. Sean must have been born in August. And David must have been born in November. With David being born in November, remember the arrow over the top, the chocolate, the person who had the chocolate cake was whoever was born in November. So David must be the person in November who had the chocolate cake. And let's keep going. So remember, we're looking for whose birthday cake flavour can be definitely be identified. So John's birthday was first, and he bought his own birthday cake, and it was either pineapple or strawberry. So John's cake was either pineapple or strawberry, meaning it wasn't kiwi. And you can see we've got 3 X's in a row there. So Sean was kiwi. And this is as far.
Wait, what? John's birthday was first, and he bought his own birthday cake. It was either pineapple or strawberry, so John's was not kiwi.
can get. So whose birthday cake flavor can definitely be identified? It's going to be
Henry did not eat the kiwi, served at his friend's birthday party. Sean bought a chocolate cake for his friend's birthday party. John's birthday was first. He bought a cake from Bakery A, and it was either pineapple or strawberry.
Sean and David. Okay, so it's a difficult question.
Let me just see, when did he cross out?
Let's keep going. So remember, we're looking for whose birthday cake flavor can be definitely be identified. So John's birthday was first, and he bought his own birthday cake, and it was either pineapple or strawberry. So John's cake was either pineapple or strawberry, meaning it wasn't kiwi. And you can see we've got 3 X's in a row there. So Sean's was kiwi. And this is as far as we can get. So whose birthday cake flavor can definitely be identified? It's going to be Sean and David. Okay, so it's a difficult question, especially if you didn't manage to get some of those extractions. You may be left with too many blanks. But you can see how at every point, all we're trying to... Hello guys, welcome back.
Okay, we're gonna try one of those logic puzzles. Okay, not this logic puzzle. Give me a different logic puzzle. Okay, 4 friends. Ahmed, Lauren, Zach, and Viv. Each knit a different item. A cardigan, pillow, quilt, or scarf in a different colour of yarn. Red, yellow, turquoise, or grey. Ahmed knitted the scarf. So he didn't knit any of the others. But it isn't yellow or turquoise. Lauren knitted the quilt. The quilt. Lauren knitted the quilt or the cardigan. But her item isn't grey. Viv knitted a red item. But it isn't the quilt or the pillow. So no one else could have done that. No one else could have done that. Okay, so then Aryan did the grey. Ahmed, okay. Zach knitted an item that isn't yellow. Oh, so Viv did a cardigan. So Viv did a cardigan. That's X there. That's a tick there. That's X there. Okay. Zach knitted a turquoise pillow. Don't know that, yeah? Okay, Laura knitted a yellow scarf. That's not true. Ahmed written a red scarf. Viv knitted... So Viv knitted... No. Viv did not knit a quilt. That's wrong. So... Let's go. Let's go. I kind of understand it now. You really gotta work that out though. Like, 5 schools send teams. Each team A, B, C, D, E. Wear hats are the same color and hoodies are the same color. Yeah. Oh, that was my phone. I'm gonna check that.
Channel. And following the last
No, yeah, I actually need to piss it. So I'll go on my phone. Don't piss. What's it? Nearly 4 o'clock.
logical puzzles, there was some positive uptake, and I think people were asking if I could go through different styles of logical puzzle questions as well.
I'm gonna get some water. So I also put some.
Okay, so I thought I would go through just a couple of questions that I picked out that are different to the kind of like two-way table style questions. So these ones, I guess, have no clear-cut technique, I would say as such, but it's more about just kind of general principles and ways that I like to solve these. Okay, so these are just a random assortment of questions, therefore. So it says W, X, Y, Z are playing a football game. One of them breaks a window by mistake. So W says it was X, X says it was Y. Y says it was not me, and Z says it was not me. Okay, so which of the four must be lying? So in order to do this, you kind of have to have a look which two ideas are contradictory here. So you can see X and Y are the contradictory ideas here, because X says it's Y, Y says it's not me. So one of these two must be lying, but who is it? So we can just trial and error it. So if Y was lying, okay, that means all the others are telling the truth. But that wouldn't be possible because W says it's X and X says it's Y, and they can't both have done it because only one of them breaks the window. So therefore, let's say X has to be lying. So if X is lying, that means W is telling the truth. So W is saying it's X. Y is telling the truth. Y is saying it's not me. Z is saying it's not me. And that works because it would be X. Okay? So therefore, the person who must be lying must be X. And the reason and the way that we did it is we simply drew our arrows and we had a look at which options were impossible, basically, okay, and which two were contradictory, and then it was kind of a bit of trial and error to see which one worked and which one didn't. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Because if W was lying, it means X did it, which means X is lying. That's two. If X was lying, that means Y didn't actually do it, Z didn't actually do it. And then
On to the next question then. Okay, so this question says youth orchestra of 39.
however, if Y was lying, that means it did do it. He did do it. That means W was lying.
To the next question then. Okay, so this question says youth orchestra of 39 members and is drawn from 4 secondary schools, K, L, M, N. Each school sends the same proportion of boys and girls to play in the orchestra as are on the school roll. Okay, so it's representative. 18 members in the orchestra, so there's a youth orchestra, which is 39 members. With 18 members in the orchestra, L is twice the size of K, so K must have and that's 3 times the size of M. And N, so M must be 6 and N must also be 6. And if you add those up, just make sure, so 12, 21, 18 adds up to 39. N has as many boys as K has girls, while M is equal girls. So here, the important bit is if we just dive to what you can easily work out. So M has equal boys and girls, and it says there are 6 girls from N in the orchestra, so M therefore has 0 boys and all girls. And it says N has a
this makes no sense. N has as many boys.
boys as K has girls. Okay, n as many boys as K has girls, so that means K must have 0 girls. And it says there are 6 girls from n in the orchestra, so M therefore has 0 boys and all girls. And it says n has as many boys as K has girls. Okay, n as many boys as K has girls, so that means K must have 0 girls. So it has all boys. And it says L has as many boys as K, so then K has 9 boys, so L is going to be equally split. So here I'm not going through the information necessarily chronologically, but I'm picking out the most definitive ideas. And it asks how many of the 4 secondary schools are same-sex schools, so we can see this has only boys, that has only girls, and this has only boys, so the answer must be C, 2. Okay, so some kind of logical way of laying out the information really helps here. Okay. Okay, so
This guy is actually really good at this, man.
these kind of questions, whenever they give you a diagram, you probably have to use it, so you probably have to like draw something roughly similar on your page. Obviously, you don't have to draw out all the shapes, you can just do it as 5 blanks that are roughly in order like this. But obviously here, because I can see it on the screen, I'm just going to use the screens one. So remember, once again, we're looking for things we can put down definitively. So the Pentagon is not allocated for the education area, fine, that's cool. The hospital is as far from the airport as possible, so is going to be here. The commercial space is almost equidistant from the residential plots in the education area. So if it's equidistant, is probably going to be in the middle. Okay, well, almost equidistant. That means that leaves residential plots in the education area. Remember, we're looking for what's in the circle. We know the pentagon's not for the education area, so the education area must be here. So the answer is going to be C. Okay, and another point I want to mention is often I feel like sometimes the logical puzzles on the official UCAT website are a little bit easier than some of the ones on meidfy. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. And again, another reason for why you should be trying to do hopefully all of these questions as well as all the practice tests as well, just to get a better idea of what the real thing will be like. Because of course meidfy is great, but these questions are from the actual makers, so you can kind of see if you can get into their frame of thinking essentially. Okay, cool. Okay, so this
I love this guy. Is that okay? Cool. Okay, cool.
often also a separate style of question. So this question is the ones where it's like, oh, different people assign different things on.
Okay, let me open up a meidfy, yeah. I know as I wanted to go home, I wanted to master all these, and I've literally just done 1 and 2. No. Annie baked chicken pies. Okay, so they made 12. 3. So Helga made 3 chicken. The number of pies baked by Kyla is twice Helga. So Kyla made 6. Kyla baked the same amount. Kyla made 3 chicken, 3 apple. Annie baked 2 pies of the same kind. Okay. Okay, so that leaves 1 chicken and 2 apple left. And then if Annie baked 2 pies, that means she did apple. That leaves 1 chicken. That means she made 0. Okay, that was decent, but I mean, it still took me a decent amount of time to answer that question. I think preferably I would skip it. Let me just do another one and see how I do. Okay, students from 60s. Seoul, Tokyo, Bangkok, Kuma, and Jay. There was 1 fewer students from Seoul than Japan. So J equals S minus 1. No, S minus 1 equals J. No, S. No, S plus 1 equals J. There are more students from Tokyo. Okay, let's just, I don't think he's kind of gone over this. Let's just see what he...
So you have to put things in order, okay? So it says, wears the same colored suit on the same day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, okay? So first of all, I think it's important to read all of the main ideas. Before we put anything down, I think it's important to kind of just play around with stuff as well. So he blue suit later in the week than the brown one. So you know the blue goes after the brown. He wore his white suit some days later than the blue one. So then there it goes brown, blue, and then white. And it says some days after, so perhaps there's a gap. He wore the grey suit 2 days later than the blue one. Okay, so it's going to be based off the fact we know that there's at least one gap between blue and white. I think it's going to be blue, dash, grey, then white. Okay, so if we've got grey here, and we've got white here, and we've got the dash, we've got blue, this has to be brown. What day did he wear his green suit? I would say it's going to be C, Wednesday. So the reason how I figured that out...
Okay, let's see how we've done this. Okay, so we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, which day did he wear his green suit? He wore his blue suit later in the week than the brown one. He wore his white suit some days later than the blue one. White, there can be dot 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 there. He wore his grey suit 2 days later than the blue one.
So the blue suit is later in the week than the brown, so I just put blue over brown just in general. and it says he wore his white suit some days later. Okay, so here it would be 2 days after, so that's like the minimum for some, because some is more than one, so I put it as a minimum. But then we're told he wears his grey suit 2 days later than the blue one. So the earliest the white. So in a similar, that last question is this question here. So it's about people coming in at different times. So it says, so we've got 6 people. So
Ali. So Ali was first, and then Hassan here. Zoe arrived after Frederick, but immediately before Sharon. What? Zoe arrived after Francois's. Mirror. So I got Zoe.
this is the earliest and it's the latest. It says Ali was immediately followed into the room by Hassan. So Ali and then Hassan. Zoe arrived after Francois, but before Sharon, who was not the last to arrive. So Zoe arrived after Francois, okay, but before Sharon, immediately before Sharon. So we know these two are next to each other and these two are next to each other. So Sharon was not the last to arrive, so it was someone else, okay. Mira was later than Francois, who arrived after Ali. So if Mira was later than Francois, and we know that these two are next to each other, and we know that Mira was later than Francois, who arrived after Ali. So if Francois arrived after Ali, and we know Hassan was straight after Ali, it must be Ali, Hassan, Francois, and then we have Z, S, and remember we know that there's at least one last person because Sharon's not the last to arrive, and since we know Mira was later than Francois, Mira must be here. So who was the fourth to arrive? I would say it's going to be Zoe. Okay, so once again, there's no clear-cut technique as such, but it's just about relating ideas together.
I got Zoe actually. So yeah, so wait, what band did he get? He got band 2.
Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, this is a slightly different video to what I normally do. I thought I would just put out my thoughts in terms of what I think the deciles are going to be like this year, since I've had a couple of requests and emails from people asking what I think the scorings will be like for the UCAT this year. And so you can see I'm on the official UCAT website and we can have a look at some of the scaled scores from previous years. But of course there's a couple of things that we have to understand because this is the first year where we've only had 3 sections that count towards the numerical scoring. Okay, so first of all, I thought I would just mention perhaps, what I think the 5th decile might be, the 7th, 8th, and 9th deciles, and then I will go over into the SJT as well, and I'll explain my reasoning. So the first thing to remember is that we have
said 2280. I'm not hiding that guy, but still.
But there was no more abstract reasoning, and abstract reasoning was one of those sections which massively inflated people's scores. Okay, there were people who were averaging 500, 600 on other sections, but because abstract was somewhat learnable, they were able to get even 800s in abstract, which used to pull people's scores up. Okay, so for that reason, you might immediately think, oh, great, no abstract this year, so therefore scores are going to go down, right? So that means that I might have a better chance with my deciles. But there is, of course, a trade-off to this idea, because see where there were 4 sections, now we only have 3 sections, so it means that people are going to take the time to focus on those other 3 sections more, and therefore scores will probably increase in those other sections. So in terms of overall, and I guess this is perhaps not what people were expecting, I think that scores will generally probably stay about the same. But one thing to say as well is you can see just from the general trend, over time I think more and more people try harder for the UCAT, people realise the importance of it, and scores do naturally get better, you can see. So I'm just highlighting the top 3, 4 deciles here, you can see the scores are improving pretty much over time. So kind of weighing up all these factors, so I would say that, let's say, if we get rid of abstract, that might drop your score down about 30 on average, but then when you kind of take into account that time that you no longer spend on abstract, you'll spend equivalently on each of the other sections, and if they all go about 10, we're probably looking at about the same. However, on top of that, the last thing which I mentioned was that over time people try harder. There are more resources, there are more materials for people to use, people will start understanding the importance of practicing earlier, etc., etc. So in fact, if anything, I probably would expect the deciles to go up slightly. And so my predictions would probably be for the ninth decile, probably about 2180 or 2190. I would say that the seventh decile will probably hit about 2000, and I think that 2000 will probably be around a good score, a somewhat competitive score for this year, and it should allow people to apply to most universities. And the fifth decile, so will probably be once again around this mark. And I think that there probably will be an increase this year in terms of kind of people hitting those high marks, but also I think because a lot of people, I think the other trend that you can see as well at the top, which I want to briefly mention, is that I think more and more people do tend to sit the UCAT each year. I think especially when you think about people that are reapplying as well, and I think medicine is
Yep. Okay. I'm gonna eat some food. I'm gonna get ready and leave for work. But I think that's a pretty good